Hey guys, I am so excited because today we are going to move from talking about fractions to starting to talk about decimals. That's our objective today. We are going to relate fractions and decimals. And once you get the hang of it, you're gonna love it because it's actually quite easy. Let's start off by talking about something that you guys know well. Let's talk about starting off with fractions. So if I have, let's see here, let's say that I'm going to talk about some tenths here. I've got 10 pieces. Let's say I have 3 of the 10 pieces filled in. Now, you guys have been doing things that are way harder than this, but to take a step back, we know that this is 3 pieces out of a total of 10 pieces. That makes 3/10. So there's another way that we can write this. And the way that we write this is actually in number form without a bar. Take a look. So I have a place value chart here. We already know that a fraction is just a piece of one whole. If all of these bars were filled in, it would be one whole, but it's not. Only 3 pieces of this whole square are filled in. And so a fraction represents a piece. Today, we're going to learn about decimals. Decimals also equal pieces. So if you look on a place value chart, here, this looks like a normal place value chart. Hundreds, tens, ones. So if I wanted to write the number, say 415, I would write it like this. But if I wanted to write a piece, if I wanted to represent a piece of 1, I have to put down a decimal point and go over here to these 2 new place values. One of them is called tenths, and the other one is called hundredths. And this is how we represent fractions in numeric form. So take a look. I have 3/10 shaded. So I'm going to go over here to my tenths place value, and this is how I represent 3/10 as a decimal. So now we have 2 ways of representing a piece of one whole. We can represent a piece as 3/10 or as a fraction, or we could represent the fraction as a decimal. Pretty cool, huh? So let's do another example. How about if I had 4 pieces? Or 5 pieces? Or even 6 pieces? How would I say this as a fraction? I've got 6 pieces out of 10. Well, that's easy. We know, I'm actually going to make this into a fraction. We know that 6 pieces out of 10 equals 6/10. So now I'm going to come down here to my place value chart, and I'm going to go over to the tenths spot because I know I'm dealing with 6 pieces of 10. And so I have a place where I can represent 6/10. It's in the place value chart. So I'm going to go down here to a new fresh line, And I'm going to write 6 in the tenths spot. We refer to this as 6/10. 6/10, 6/10. Same thing. Cool, huh? Let's do one more. So let's pretend now that I don't have 6. Let's pretend I have 9. 9 pieces out of 10. Remember, I have not filled up my whole square. So I cannot put any numbers over here on this side of my place value chart because I don't have one whole. I'm dealing with pieces, and I deal with pieces on the right side of my decimal place, not on the left side. So I have 9 pieces out of 10 now. As a fraction, we know that that looks like this, 9/10. As a decimal, I'm going to find a fresh line down here. I have my tenths place, and I'm going to write the 9 in the tenths place. Now I have 9/10. That's how we say this. That's how we say this decimal. And we say this fraction as 9/10. Did you notice anything in common? 9/10, 9/10. 2 different ways of representing a piece of a whole. Now we're going to talk about representing hundredths. So let's pretend instead of having tenths, we have hundredths. So I have 100 pieces here. Amazing, right? And let's pretend that I'm going to shade in, let's see. I'm going to shade in 25 of them. Okay, so 25 pieces out of my 100 pieces have been shaded in. So that as a fraction, we know is 25 hundredths. We already know this. Now remember, this is my whole piece. I cannot say that this is 25 pieces because I cannot say that this is 25 wholes because we only have 25 pieces or parts of the 100 pieces that it takes to make this whole complete. So if I was going to represent this as a decimal, I have my place value chart again. Here is written 25 hundredths. Well, look at this. I have a hundreds spot, I have a 10 spot, I have a 1 spot, but none of those are for pieces of a whole. Remember, behind the decimal, to the right of the decimal, is where pieces of a whole go. We have 10 pieces of 10 and 100 pieces. This is 25 hundredths. That's how we say this. So I'm going to represent 25 hundredths like this. 25 hundredths. Pretty easy, huh? So again, 2 ways of representing pieces of a whole. 20 in a fraction form and in a decimal form. 25 hundredths, 25 hundredths. It's the same thing. So let's pretend instead of 25, I have I've got 41 now. So as a fraction, that's really easy. 41 hundredths. Now, as a decimal, again, I'm going to use my hundredths place to the right of the decimal, and I'm going to write 41 hundredths. There we go. Nice. All right, let's do one more. So here's 41. I'm going to do, let's see. This is 50. This is 60. This is 70. Okay. This is actually 73 pieces. So if I was going to write this as a fraction, it would look like this. 73 pieces out of 100. 73 hundredths. If I was going to write this as a decimal, I would again go to the right of the decimal place because that's where I represent pieces of a whole. And I would write 73 so that the 3 would end right in the hundredths column so that I would know I had 73 pieces of 100. Isn't this pretty easy, guys? So listen, I shared not only a 100 grid with you in your Google Classroom, but I also shared a place value chart with you. So if you like, you can either reproduce them, draw them on your own, or you can print them out and use multiple copies as you're working with fractions and decimals today. I have a link with some exercises that are exactly similar to what we're doing today, making fractions into decimals and making decimals back into fractions. So good luck, work hard, have fun, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.